World War III has already begun. Jamie Dimon warns. Says his team is preparing for serious conflict with China and Russia. 3 assets to protect yourself in 2025. I love that they, this is an article.
Made a listicle?
That's right. This is an article from November, actually, that they reposted because of what just happened in Syria with Bashar al-Assad fleeing, the Assad family fleeing to Moscow and being granted asylum. This is massive. Russia has fled, their vessels have fled the naval base in Tartus, substantially weakening their position in the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. Tartus is Mediterranean, Sevastopol is Black Sea, but their Black Sea flagship was bombed by Ukrainian forces with U.S. and Western assistance. So the question then becomes, with everything we're seeing here, and now we have this issue of Taiwan on high alert, as of today, due to some 90 warships being deployed by China. I think it was 90, some large number. We are looking at a potential dramatic escalation. The question then becomes, with Syria's collapse, this is a principal ally of Russia. Russia stopped protecting them. That's how the rebels were able to, the rebel alliance, they call it, was able to advance into Damascus and take the capital. Russia's pulled out, focusing on its war in Ukraine. One could say it's looking like Russia is being crushed and could lose. The concern then becomes, that appears to be true. If Russia does feel backed into a corner, do they drag in Russia or China and Iran? Does China then make a move on Taiwan while the heavy focus is here in Eastern Europe and the Middle East? Or does Russia say, screw it, if I'm going down, or Putin says, if I'm going down, I'm firing nukes, and then does it?
I don't know. I mean, I have a hard time wrapping my head around the idea of Putin actually firing nukes.
Do you think that if Putin was facing the collapse of the Russian Federation, that he would just be like, guess I lose?
I'm
not saying that facetiously, or would he be like, we're using nukes?
I don't know. I know that there are hardline people in Russia that really think that Putin is too soft with the West. So I don't think that the possibility of nukes is outside. I don't think that it's outside of the realm of possibility. But I don't know if they would use nukes over Ukraine. And I'm not saying that I think they wouldn't.
We're not talking about just Ukraine. We're talking about they've just lost Syria and their military base in Tartus. Their naval fleet has been forced to retreat and fled the area in the past month.
But the part of the reason why they lost the stuff why Syria had to lost the war is because Russia has been so weakened by Ukraine. So by the fight for 2.5 years now, 3 years in Ukraine. So if they were going to use nukes, I feel like they might have already. And I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but they did lose all this stuff and all these assets in Syria by losing Syria. But the reason they lost Syria is because they're so depleted in Ukraine. So I don't know if they would.
And so let's draw them to bigger picture. Russia, with military interests in Syria and a naval base which gives them access to the Mediterranean, just lost their Mediterranean access and was forced to retreat because they're losing badly in Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's not a question of them saying they wouldn't use nukes over Ukraine. This is they're withdrawing their international military apparatus because they are losing on their home front.
I think they know. I would imagine, and this is again, I'm not an expert or anything like that, but if they're weakened to the point where they can't back Syria anymore, the last thing they want to do is use nuclear weapons, because that would only invite aggression from all of NATO. And so, I mean, if they're just like saying, okay, then we'll just kill everyone on Earth. And I don't know that that's what they want. Because if they can't defend Syria, if they can't support Syria, who's doing the heavy lifting, honestly, they're just sending them money and weapons. If they don't have the military assets to defend Syria, then that means, and they're depleted, and they're fighting in Ukraine for the past 3 years. If they were to go ahead and use a nuke, they're going to draw military action from the whole of NATO.
We'll break it down again. Russia is losing.
Yeah.
They're losing so badly that their external apparatus is being dismantled.
Yes.
And Vladimir Putin is going to go, I guess I lose?
I don't think that it's as simple as I guess I lose.
I surrender?
Because because he's not surrendering anything. The option is, do I want to fight NATO?
So they already believe they are fighting NATO. It was Western intelligence.
Do they want to fight directly with NATO?
Right.
Do they want to take on?
But again, the question is, will Putin surrender?
I don't think he's going to surrender, but I don't think that is that. I don't think surrender or nuking. I don't think surrender.
Hold on. Honestly, He's lost his external military apparatus to try and shore up. He's asking for up to 100,000 North Koreans to aid him. He is losing. What's the next move that he has? Retreat from Bryansk and Kursk, fall.
So I don't know enough
to Western
about,
forces.
I don't know enough about the internal struggles of Russia to make a prediction. But I think that the option of using nukes draws NATO into direct conflict, not proxy war. NATO to direct conflict
That's
with
immaterial.
Russia.
The question is, if Vladimir Putin is losing on his own border to the point that his external military apparatus is collapsing, the question he asks himself is, do I escalate the conflict, which would be the next degree would probably be nuclear artillery, howitzers and such. The Russian term, I don't know the Russian term for the artilleries they use. And with warheads, because they are losing, Ukraine is launching incursions and missile strikes into Bryansk and Kursk. Or, look, the fact that Syria collapsed because they could no longer assist them.
I don't think bigger bombs is going to change it.
So does Russia surrender?
No, I'm not. I don't know. I don't think they surrender, but I also don't think that just using larger bombs gets them out of the situation.
So they're losing. They can lose, or they can escalate use of force.
They don't need to escalate. They're like, it's not.
Right, so they lose.
It's not an option of they lose or they escalate. There is right now. They don't. Right now, the Ukrainians haven't been able to make any kind of gains. If I understand correctly, Russia's been making all of the gains in Ukraine in the past 12 months. The Ukrainians have taken back no territory. So it's not a situation of just give them bigger bombs and they're going to be able to.
It's a question of. Ukraine's obviously in a very, very dire situation, but they're getting infinite funding from the West. Joe Biden's announced.
I think soon go away though.
Yeah, I think that they're just holding on. I think that they'll hold. I think Russia's best play is hold on till Donald Trump comes in.
I agree. That's what
and then look for a deal.
Yeah, I think that they've lost their Syrian territory, and that theater is gone. But they're going to hold on and try and negotiate some sort of white peace where they just keep territory they've taken.
Which allows Putin to save face, too, so he doesn't have to get desperate.
This is Putin's surrender. When Donald Trump comes in, if Trump says to Putin, the war is over, and cedes some Ukrainian territory or Sevastopol or something like this, the Donbass, the Mariupol, et cetera, Putin has surrendered, especially losing Syria.
They call it a white peace, which is the war
surrender.
just ends. And whoever has whatever, that's just where
it's a surrender.
Stays.
We've talked about it quite a bit, but one of the principal components of this conflict is the Qatar-Turkey pipeline, which is rooted in Europe getting cheaper energy. Gazprom controls about a quarter of natural gas into Europe through Ukraine, and this keeps the price. They have a stranglehold on the price of gas, which, according to, and I say this is surface level stuff, the Western intelligence, this is a problem for European economic growth, and again, mainstream sourcing on this, I think there's probably a lot more at play. The idea is that Europe needs to grow as an economic bloc faster to compete with China's rapid growth. And they can't because Russia is jacking up the price of energy, which makes it harder for the people of Europe. So NATO, the U.S. and Europe, wanted to build a gas pipeline through Syria and Turkey into Europe to offset the Gazprom monopoly. Syria said, no, Russia is our ally, and we will not allow you to build a gas pipeline that would disrupt their energy trade. Basically, what do they call? They call Russia a gas station with snow or something like this. They say they just provide energy to Europe, basically. That's the only way they operate. So after Syria says no, because our ally Russia would be upset, the U.S. then, this was publicly stated in The Guardian in 2012, basically the U.S. said, we will overthrow the government of Syria so that we can build this pipeline. The ISIS rises, the country falls into civil war. Barack Obama and seemingly under his leadership, ISIS ends up with a pickup truck from Detroit or whatever. Now, there's a big area of contention is whether or not the West was actually supplying weapons to these terrorists. But as the story goes,
they were.
Everybody says, right, that's the case. And the idea was if Al-Qaeda and ISIS and these other groups continue to gain control of the region, Assad will be removed from power, regardless of your views of whether he's a good or bad person. And with an instability in the region, we can send in the troops, stage an incursion, control it, build our pipeline, and shut down Russia's control of gas. Yeah. This is also why the Nord Stream pipeline got blown up, because they're basically saying Russia is controlling too much interest in Europe, and Europe is saying okay to them. So what ends up happening now is after Syria says no, Iran and Russia teamed up to build a pipeline that would go through Syria and Turkey and strengthen Russian control of energy in Europe. Surprise, surprise, Syrian civil war happens. If now the Syrian government has collapsed, paving the way for the West to come in with Israel now bombing weapon sites and Turkey invading from the north and the U.S. also engaging in strikes, I believe drone strikes. This paves the way, removes all opposition to, and with Tartus being evacuated, the Russians now have no military option for countering Western forces building a pipeline to shut down their energy trade. Russia lost. The question then becomes, does Vladimir Putin just say, okay, please stop, please, I'm beaten and leave me alone? Or is he a psychotic lunatic the way the media's implied he is? And he says, you have taken Syria, you have shut down you blew up our pipeline, enough, and say, we're moving in. Does this lead to a bigger conflict? I'm not saying it does. I'm saying it's not so simple to say that, Trump comes in and he goes, well, gee golly me, I guess it's over. The loss of Syria is massive for Russia's interests. This would mean that if Trump comes in and the war does end, Putin is basically saying, please, I surrender. That's it.
Well, it would be what is going to be surrendered in the final terms. What's going to be given over from Russia to the others? And maybe nothing. It might just be like the war is now over. So technically, wouldn't it be a surrender? Whatever was seized before the war is negotiated over has been seized. So it's technically not a surrender. But even though it's basically lost Tartus.
Yeah, if Russia doesn't give back territory, like if Russia gets to keep the territory that it gained, it's not a surrender. They won.
A white piece.
Yeah, Putin can still save face in the public eye.
Losing Syria is a substantially larger loss than the land bridge.
Fair enough, but they didn't. Syria isn't Russian territory. Losing the bases in Syria, yes, but.
The control of Ukraine to NATO is a non-starter for Russia, hence the invasion in the first place. It is not just their principal reason for invasion was to make sure they didn't lose access to a $100 million plus industrial port and naval base in Sevastopol. However, they run their gas through Ukraine. They were trying to work a trade deal with Ukraine, and the West came in and basically said soft power takeover and forced out Russian interests. Russia invades because, it's a combination of factors. The victory point for Russia in this would have been, we control the land bridge and maintained Crimea, but losing in power in Ukraine and Ukraine to NATO, which is seemingly going to happen, is a massive defeat. And it basically shuts down, and it puts Europe in deep control of their ability to transport energy into the country.
It makes Turkey really, really a pivotal position.
Oh, yeah. And Turkey's acting up. But this is why they blew up Nord Stream 2. It's about saying to Russia, you're a gas station, shut your mouth and do as you're told. The loss of Syria means that we can offset their gas monopoly by bringing in Middle Eastern gas into Europe, and it's going to dump the price of Gazprom. So we bring in competitive pricing through Syria. We drop the price of natural gas 20, 30, 40%. Russia then says our economy is in trouble. That's why they were rejecting this and trying to resist it. With Syria falling and the West being able to get what they want, Russia loses everything. Their economy is going to take a hit. They're already in trouble. This is a component of why they're fighting in the first place. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.